And we are back with
We're
another
in.
outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we are joined by Buddy Schaub from the band Less from Jake. How you doing today, sir?
That's me. I'm doing great. My wife and I are getting ready to have a garage sale tomorrow because we're getting a new kitchen installed. So we're trying to get rid of some old kitchen crap. That's me. I'm doing great.
Uh-oh. You got YouTube
My
up.
wife and I
That's
are getting ready to have a garage sale tomorrow. I'm getting a delay.
just close the YouTube window.
Oh, there it is. That's me. Yep. Got it. Hold on.
Perfect.
All right, there we go. I was like, wait a minute.
That's happened to everybody I know who's ever used StreamYard. Trust me when I tell you. No worries on
Well,
that.
I only opened the YouTube links. I thought that's what you were saying. That's what I needed to do to get on here.
Oh no, that was just if you wanted to see it. That's that.
Yep. Gotcha.
All right, yes, we're good. Where you calling us from? Where you living these days?
I am still one of the holdouts in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
So Roger and I are the only ones that actually live in Gainesville still.
Okay.
As far as people know.
So your whole life you've been in Gainesville? You were born there?
I am not. When you're born here, you're called an ACR, which is an Alachua County resident. But I was actually born in Palm Bay, Florida, which is like in the middle of the state on the East Coast. It's near Daytona, but not in Daytona.
Okay, so you're touring up here in the north. Like, well, I guess it's gonna be. Is that why you waited till like spring to pop this tour off and not do it in February and December?
Yeah, I don't know. Like our new pattern is not doing anything from like January to May or something. I don't really understand why we gave up on the first part of the year, but it is convenient though that we're gonna go hit Europe. Well, we're actually going to Europe first in May. Well, really June. It's like the very end of May. We're doing Slam Dunk is in England. It's like a big festival. Two shows, and then we go over to mainland Europe. So that's our first time going back to mainland Europe since the whole blip on the radar there.
Okay, you're gonna like. I was just in England last year. The UK went last October. It's we got quite a bit of UK viewers. So Doof and everybody, man. And we got usually about 30 to 40% of our audience is from England. So that's
nice.
That's good.
Yeah, that's about 30 to 40% of our audience too. We do pretty well in England, so we've been over there. We actually went to England last year in April. So that was the first out of the country thing that we did after the pandemic. But now we're going to mainland Europe. We had canceled the mainland Europe tour last fall, but now we're gonna make it up in May here, and then we're all around the U.S. in the summer. So that's part of what you were referring to when you said I was going to be up in the Northeast. Much nicer in the Northeast in the summer than in February. That's for sure.
Oh, 100%. So what was like when you were growing up in Gainesville? Or no, you said you were growing up in Lakes. What year did you end up going to Gainesville? Was that like when you were a kid coming in? How did that end up happening?
I moved there to go to college at the University of Florida.
Okay. So
in 1991.
Chomp Gator. Okay.
The last century, a century ago.
Okay, so so you grew up in that. What you said, Lake City? Was that the name of it?
No. Definitely not Lake City. Palm Bay, Florida. Definitely, it's a coastal town. I was on the beach. Not Lake City is about an hour north of here, and I've been there. It's not that rad.
Dude, my Florida knowledge is so bad. I got more knowledge of UK geography than I do Florida. It's like one of those things that feels like like them low-lying areas got like about 50 years left, and they're just gonna get flooded out.
Yeah, you might as well not learn it because it won't be here soon.
Right? Why am I gonna learn it? It's gonna be all stagnant swamp in about 3.
That's pretty much how people look at it anyway. Once you cross into Florida, you're just in Florida. It doesn't matter where you are, really.
Yeah. So I totally forgot the town again. So growing up in
Palm Bay. Yep. Like a palm tree, but there's a bay there too.
Palm Bay. I remember that now. Growing up in Palm Bay. Yeah, obviously you were on the beach. You're like a surfing kid. What did you do for fun?
I went to the beach when I was younger and stuff a lot. And then even in high school, but I was not cool enough to be one of the surfers. So like people started surfing like right around like maybe junior high. And that's where I realized some of my friends were not my friends anymore. And then I was a nerdy band kid instead. So yeah, I started doing band. I played soccer and tennis in high school and was in marching band and, just regular old band. I pretty much did a lot of band stuff in high school. But then when I moved to college, I stopped playing my trombone and started playing guitar and bass in bands and got into the punk rock scene. And that's how I met everybody in Less Than Jake. And one random night, their band played with my other band that I was playing in, and they had Jessica playing sax. I had seen them before without the sax player, and they'd only been a band for like 8 months. So when I say I'd seen them before, it was like, months before this. And so on a whim, I was a little too drunk and was like, hey, maybe I should get my trombone out and see if they want a trombone player. And so I asked, the sax player, and she was like, oh, you got to go talk to Vinny. So I went and talked to him. He was like, yeah, come out to our warehouse on Tuesday and we'll check it out. I woke up the next day and I was like, oh God, what the hell was I thinking? So I hadn't picked up my horn like a year and a half. But I managed to persevere and went out there with my like really stuck trombone slide and tried to play along. But we really clicked and hit it off. So here I am 30 years later, still in that band. So
30
somewhat
years,
right.
man, right? Man, I was 92. Think about that, dude. It's 2023. Where did the time go, brother? My goodness.
Sometimes I think about it and it seems like it was like 5 minutes, and sometimes it seems like an eternity. It depends on the memory I'm focusing on. Like, time is such a weird beast. The older you get, time is so weird too, because you got so many more memories. So it's all it's clouded around and stuff.
Well, the older you get too, the less fractional of a year it is. So like a year when you're like 8 is like 12% of your life. A year when you're
exactly
50.
See, that's why it does. I figured all this stuff out at some point, because everyone always talks about how the older you get, like the faster it goes and all that stuff. But that's part of the reason is what you just said. Like it's a bigger part of your life. Like when you're a kid, 1 year is a long time when you've only been alive for 7 years, like you just said. But once you've been alive for almost 50 years, like myself, then a decade's like whatever. A decade, that was like 5 minutes ago.
All right. So when you were coming up, were you musically inclined, like in grade school and stuff? What was like your first instrument started to play?
Yeah, like grade school, I didn't really play much in the way of instruments. Like we had like music class when I was in like elementary school and stuff, where you played like the recorder and stuff like that. But I didn't start until 7th grade, and I started playing clarinet actually before trombone. Okay. I did that for a year, and I was pretty good at it. But I only started doing that because my sister was playing it, and I was like, oh, I can just get her to teach me. It'll be easy. But then she convinced me the summer after 7th grade that I should switch to a different instrument, because I think she just didn't want me to be in the same section as her. So I knew a couple of dudes that played trombone, so I switched to that randomly on a whim. It wasn't like I was like, I'm really passionate about the trombone or anything. And then, I mean, now I am, but I had no idea. And there's so many little decisions like that in your life that like lead to things later that, at the time, you don't really know that you're making such a big decision in your life. It's so wild how stuff like that works out.
Oh, like Vanessa said, she entered the service 43 years ago this month. And it's wild. Yeah, because like you'll take one vacation and then meet somebody, and that person you meet will like change your entire directory of what you did.
Yeah.
That for you. It's just them little, that's why I like, you always remember, Back to the Future and all that. I always think, that's why I don't think if time travel ever existed, we wouldn't know, because like everything would change. You know what I mean? So it's like,
everything. Yeah, exactly. Like the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like, do you ever read those choose your own adventure books when you were
when you're a kid? Turn to page 83 if you want to see the kids jump off the bridge.
Exactly. I love those books, and that's pretty much what that is what your life has become. Like when the older you get, like it's like that. Like some little decision you made, I could have a whole different life if I didn't switch to trombone. Like I don't think that Les and Jake was looking for a clarinet player. You know what I mean?
So when you go into high school, and are you playing the trombone in high school, or are you just kind of taking it easy and see what happens? What's the deal there?
Nope, that was it. 8th grade, I switched to trombone, and then when I got into high school, I started playing in concert band, jazz band, and marching band. So I was like full on band person, straight through all 4 years of high school, and that's why I was kind of sick of it by the time I got done with that. And over the summer before I went to college, I started picking up the guitar, and then I started playing with like a couple guys, and then started that route. But then I came back to the trombone. But I still played, I'm a guitar and bass and drums and stuff like that too. So we're all pretty multi-instrumentalist in Less Than Jake.
Now you've played the trombone. I actually was going to ask this, but you seem like a fun guy. Now you've heard the rusty trombone jokes, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I've heard all like I get forwarded all the memes with trombones, like the guy on the moped, like playing the trombone behind it, and like the guy chasing his mom around, like playing Star Wars and lightsaber fighting her. And yeah, I've seen them all. I'm
not gonna say what a rusty trombone is but if you guys want to type in the chat for everybody to do it, that's fine. And that my favorite variation of the rusty trombone is the Rusty Gillespie. It's just like the rusty trombone, but
you got big cheeks. Yeah,
cheeks puff up like Dizzy Gillespie. It's a great move, man. It's a classic. I actually told that joke, and there was like another joke, like the Alaska pipeline joke. And I told that on stage once. I think somebody booed, actually, like, boo, that's gross.
I don't know if I know the Alaska pipeline one.
Well, the Alaska,
I don't know if we can tell
I gotta tell it now, right? The fucking cat's out the bag. So Alaska pipeline is where you shit in a condom, then you freeze it overnight, and then the next day you use it as a dildo on the chick. It's called the Alaska pipeline.
All right, maybe that wasn't a good one for this.
Right. It was not good for stage. There's a reason I got booed that night. It was really bad. So, So when you're getting out of high school, was there any thoughts of the service? Were you always set on University of Florida? What was going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was on the college track from the get-go, so I knew I was going to go to some school. I went and since I was from Florida already, I did well on the SATs and stuff, so I got the Florida undergraduate scholarship. It's now called the Brighter Futures or something like that. Bright Futures. I don't know what it's called now, but it was basically the thing. If you do good on your grades and stuff, you get a scholarship. So those are my first two choices, was FSU and UF. And I went to go, check out both campuses like my junior year and stuff. And UF just seemed much cooler. Tallahassee's like kind of has that, it's like Austin, where it's kind of the capital and the school. And it just seemed like more spread out and didn't seem like campus life was a thing. Whereas UF, when you walk around the campus, you're just like, I basically lived on campus too. I lived in the dorm, and then I didn't have a car or anything. So I had whatever I could walk radius as far as I went, So my whole first year, I didn't even know about half of Gainesville, which isn't even very big.
So did you go, I think they call it the world's biggest cocktail party between Georgia and Florida. Did you go to that? You go to a lot of these games, and just describe the atmosphere back then? Because I got a taste of it in the tail end, but man,
it was definitely known as one of the party schools during my tenure here. I went here from 91 to 95, and then I've lived here since then too. So I've just been here during all of the college. I basically never left college. Like, that's the best part about not only being in a band, but not moving out of the college town I grew up in too. I still feel like, I don't feel like I'm in college anymore. I've definitely I've aged myself out of that. I've managed to retain my youthful looks a little bit, but I don't think I could pass for college at this point for sure. I live across the street from a high school actually. And when the kids are all leaving school now, they park across the street too. And I get real nervous when I'm like, how is that kid getting in a car and driving right now? Like, they all look like infants to me. So I'm like,
the thing that's weird to me about these kids now, Buddy, is that their hair. And I know that's, it's all come full circle. Cause like, if you think like in the 50s, it was all about, crew cuts and everything. Then starting in the 60s, people started getting longer hair. And in the 70s and 80s, everybody had long hair. Then in the 90s, people started going bald again, shaving the heads and stuff. And then now it's all coming full circle. But
yeah, it's very 70s right now.
My daughter says
it's like kind of 80s again.
They're getting like perms and stuff, I think, which is because every
kid, everybody just tries to do something different than what was just happening. So like, we're old enough to remember these older times. So that's so far in the past for them. And sometimes they want to revisit that because it's now, it's like cool and to revisit that stuff. But yeah, it's like, now I hate being old enough though that I've lived through some of the things. Like before, when it was cool to do the 80s again. Like I lived through the 80s. Like I don't want to it's kind of weird. I was like, I already did that. Let's try something new, But there's only so many things you can do with your hair, I guess. So
right. Especially as a guy, if you want to be socially acceptable, I suppose you can do whatever if you don't give a fuck. But
right. But there's not that many options though. Yeah.
So when you're
like girls get a little bit more freedom with their hair for sure.
Oh, 100%. Hey, what's up, buddy? How you been? I ain't seen you in a minute. So when you're down there at Florida, do you like playing in local bands on the weekend, or what are you just doing? What was your major? What were you doing all the time?
I majored in psychology, which took me a while to arrive at. It was one of those things too, like where I was going to school, I was taking like poetry classes, and I didn't actually go to school for music, but I was doing a lot. Less than Jake was already a thing while I was still in college, and I was in another band that I played bass in. So yeah, I was definitely like just kind of in the scene. Was like my extracurricular activities more than doing anything in school. So I was trying to just get a degree, but I really wanted to, I had to have this conversation with my mom at some point too. I was like, I really want to play music or like, be a poet or something. I was like, but these are like unrealistic goals. Like that's not going to happen for me. But, right towards the end of my college, it was actually the last year of my college. We started getting the A&R guy from Capitol started coming to some of our shows. Like he actually came to our show in town. It was right before we left for our first US tour. I graduated college, went and did like a bike ride with some of my friends around Europe, went camping and all that stuff. Came home and left 3 days later for my first US tour with Les and Jake, in a van, and it was 6 more weeks around the US. I was gone for like 10 weeks with the Europe trip. And then I came back with a big beard. And that was like my first taste at really touring, because we'd been a band already for like 4 years before we really did that tour, or I guess like 3 years. And, we'd gone over to Daytona and done like a bunch of Florida touring, but it was all like we were going to school. And so it was like weekends and we'd play around town all the time. But yeah, it was like basically just straight up college life. No aspirations of like, we're going to be in a big band forever, But once I graduated, I had to like convince my parents. I was like, I'm going to take a year off from school and see how this pans out, and again, here I am 30 years later and it's still somehow panning out.
So you basically just kept the college band going the whole
time.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the college band is now still like our band. And it was the same with everybody else in the band. Was in college. Roger and Chris, somehow we're the same age, but they were like a year. They didn't graduate yet. They still had like a semester left or something. And they both quit to keep the band going. Whereas I graduated. I got lucky. And Vinny also graduated. He still had like a couple classes left to get his master's in something, but he actually went back and finished that like kind of recently. So now he actually does have a master's and stuff. But yeah, so I had a backup. Those guys are screwed. So they were like, we really need to make this band work.
So you already touched on how you hooked up with them first. Now I got to ask about the name of the band. Now, is it named after a parrot, a bulldog, a traffic cone? What's the deal with the name of the band?
Yeah, it's a bulldog. Okay. It was Vinny, our old drummer's. It was his family dog. It was his parents' dog named Jake. And it was like this big English bulldog. And basically his parents would go to like Sizzler and get steak and bring back steak for the dog and like, make mac and cheese for Vinny. And like the dog had his own chair in the house. You weren't allowed to sit in it. And one day the way the band got the name is that him and Chris had started this band in high school. And they were, it was like the very beginning of it. They were just like kind of writing songs in his back bedroom. And yeah, I don't even think they had like a little guitar amp or something. So it wasn't even really that loud, but the dog was getting upset out in the other room and they had to stop playing. So they were less than Jake.
Oh, nice.
They weren't as good as Jake.
Now, have you ever featured a picture of Jake the Bulldog in any of your albums?
He's been on shirts and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like the story's been around forever. I like that you brought up the parrot because there was like a thing going around with a parrot at some point. There's definitely been many versions of the story that are untrue, but yeah, the real story is Jake the Bulldog.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually getting steak. My buddy Chris has said, "Damn, I wish I had some steak." I think Kim's cooking me some steak from earlier because it's the first Friday. I'm a Catholic, so it's the first non-Lent Friday in a while.
Oh yeah, you actually adhere to the
yeah, it's kind of the only thing I really do. I go to church every now and then no meat on Fridays. Everything else is kind of in that.
My wife and I actually went veg. I think it was last year we did this. It was either last year or the year before that. We went vegetarian for Lent, but kind of by mistake. It wasn't really for Lent, but we just started kind of going vegetarian. Let's just do it for Lent. So we did that the whole way up to the end of Lent and managed to stick to it. I was a vegetarian for like 9 years at some point, but
you shred some pound. I mean, everybody's on the meat diet. We got a lot of barbecue fans. I know how it is, whatever. But if you want to seriously shred some weight, you go vegetarian, go vegan for a couple of months. That shit'll
yeah, if you're vegan, maybe. If you go vegetarian, there's a lot of things are still really fat. Like you can still eat cheese and ice cream, so it's still a dangerous course. But
oh yeah, that's the problem. Is people go vegetarian, then the first thing you do is eat gobs and gobs of cheese and eggs.
Exactly. Like, oh, let's have a grilled cheese again. Like, then you're eating bread and cheese all the time, which is not as good for you either. But yeah, I'm wholeheartely back on the meat. It's hard to deny.
All right, so some of these next questions are written from my buddy. He's Doof. He's in the chat. He's over in the UK. So if some of the words sound like they're not from America, it's just because from over there.
I'm well versed in British.
All right, perfect.
Vernacular.
Perfect. All right, so it says been over 30 years since Less Than Jake was formed in Gainesville. Do you think? Now I didn't get to look at the bands that have ever come out of Gainesville, and I don't know. And I looked at this question and when I was coming up here, I was thinking about Florida Georgia Line. I don't know if they're from Gainesville or not, but do you guys think that you're one of the biggest bands, if not the biggest band to come out of Gainesville?
Unfortunately, out of Gainesville, no, because Tom Petty actually originated in Gainesville. He actually lived in Micanopy for a while, which is just south of here too. But he went to school here, and they were called Mud Crutch, I think, at the time. But the very beginnings of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were here too. And actually, I think Mike Campbell still lives in town or visits here sometimes because he actually came to one of our shows one time, which is awesome. Sister Hazel is also from here, which is they had a moment. Well, and they still are they're still a band, and they still ride the success of that one song that was a huge hit. So they're possibly, I would call them bigger than us only because they had that song that's huge. But as far as our longevity and career, maybe, I don't know. But then also Hot Water Music in the punk world and Against Me are both from Gainesville. There's been some smaller bands than them too. There's tons of like awesome bands that came out. Gainesville is like a really good hotbed of music from Florida because a lot of people come here to go to the school. So you get like people from all over, not even just Florida, just all over the country that come here. And then, so everyone gets together and then you get this mishmash of people from all over the place. So you get like kind of different sounds and stuff. So it's always been kind of a thing. And it's a weird cyclic town too, because of the college. So there's like every 4 years, like some people move and then new people move in, and you get like, so it's very transient too. And you get, doesn't become a stagnant scene too, where it's just those same dude that's been playing bass for 40 years or whatever, it's
right.
A lot of fresh
Well,
blood.
It makes sense. You just say you get every 4 years, you get new kids coming through for school. I mean,
exactly. That's what's hard about continuing to live here too, because all my like friends from college moved away already, and then I met a whole another group of friends that were a little bit younger than me, and then that keeps happening. And then some of them move away, and then I still have friends that are that have been around for a long time now. But at some point, you can't keep meeting new 21-year-olds when you're like the 40-year-old at the bar. They're like, who the hell let this? Who brought their uncle to the show? Like, what's going on here?
Well, it's funny because like my daughter, my stepdaughter Kayla, her friend's name's Jules or Julia. She'll come over, we'll smoke and all that. But like, there's like you just said, there's only so much in common you have with people who are that young. If they're not related to you, it's kind of like, all right, see you later. I mean, there's really nothing to do because they want to go out and do their thing. Drink till 2 a.m. I'm like, I ain't do that shit no more. I'm 46 years old. I can barely move out there.
That happened to me like one of those phases of new friends that I got to where I kept thinking I was still the same age as these people. And I'm like, why am I not able to do this anymore? Why is everybody drinking more than me? And like, why can't I stay up? And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm like 15 years older than these people. That's why. Yeah. At some point it hit me. And then I realized I didn't have to try to keep up anymore.
All right,
I don't really go out as much as I used to. We're actually there's 2 shows tonight that I could go to and another one tomorrow, and we're sitting here on the fence still debating on whether we're going to do that.
Oh, it's always, that's why because I like going out. I don't drink anymore, but I still like going out and having fun. But it's like I don't want to commit too far in advance because it's like when you never know if something with the kids is going to come up, and when you smoke as much as I do, I forget half the shit I say. So it's like I don't know what's going on. So it's like let me know that day.
Committal is very hard, and making plans with just even friends that I have in town that are like older like that. Like nobody wants to actually commit to a plan, and nobody wants to do anything spontaneous. So we end up not doing anything because it's like,
oh yeah, that's why I got my group
getting broken.
That's why I'll get tickets and stuff every now and then. My buddies like, oh, why didn't you ever take me? It's like the last 4 times I asked you, you were wishy-washy. You didn't say you didn't want to go. That's why I go with the same 8 people to every single event.
We have a thing called Gainesville Burger Club in town that some of my friends and I started. God, it's probably been about like 12 or 13, maybe even 15 years now that we've been doing that. But we go around to different places in town and try their burgers. And like we have a ranking, like a 10-part ranking system. And then at the end of the year, we pick whatever the winner was and give them a trophy. Like we go and like. That's
so sweet. When we first started this show, when it was back before the virus and all that, we had it was a square table because we had it was 4 guys sitting around a square table. We used to do the same thing with chicken wings every week. And this is back when wings were expensive, so you could, or cheap, because you could do it back in 2019.
Right.
But we would go to every single place. We had a chart, and somewhere in this mess of crap I got a whole list. I never followed through with the trophy. But then we ended up me and Leprechaun TV's in the chat. We do the Pizza of the Month Club because there's a place in Cleveland called Dina's. And they got a new pizza of the month every month. So we just go up there and try it every month. So you got to do stuff like that.
Chicken wings, after we've been doing the burger club for a while, we keep like when we get there, then you see other things on the menu and you're like, oh no, we got to get the burger though. But then sometimes we're like, oh, maybe we should have a taco club, or maybe we should have, like whatever, like chicken wing club.
It's beautiful.
We definitely thought of the other things. I mean, like I would do a club for that.
Hell yeah. All right. So it says your first album was Pezcore, Pezcore. Is that anything to do with the Pez candies?
Yes, indeedy. Our old drummer Vinny again and Roger, our bass player, both avidly collected Pez at that time, and so much to the extent that when we were touring in a van, Chris, our guitar player and singer, and I did not collect Pez, and we were so every time we had to stop on the side of the road to go look, it's like thrift store or like there was a Toys R Us or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, new Pez came out. We got to go to the Toys R Us or whatever. And like me and him were like, God damn it. And like Chris was like, can't we go to like the Triscuit factory and take a tour or something? Like he wanted to do something other than Pez. But yeah, they had like, Roger has shelves up in one of his rooms that with like all of the Pez. They don't have just like the regular old, but they've got like the collectible expensive Pez going. Like they've been going for quite a while. We were actually worried when we put that record out because, Pez is pretty harsh with their licensing and using their images and stuff like that. But we just did it on the fly. Anyway, now we actually have been to the Pez Museum a few times and made friends with the Pez community. So we're kind of in.
Nice. That reminds me of a story, man. When I was at this service, there was this guy. His name's Jeff Bechtel. And every time we were on like an annual tour, he would have to stop at every single like Air Force Museum or battlefield, like every little one. Like we take a 2-hour trip and you have to stop 3 times and see this random ass shit.
That's what it was. That was really annoying. Like we could barely get to the next city because we kept stopping at crap for Pez.
Now, Doof says, Hello Rockview is my favorite album, in my opinion. I would agree. That's the one with Tony Hawk song on it, right? Yeah. That's the one you guys are going to play. We're going to get some of that later. So
yes,
I would agree there.
That's the one that's having its 25th anniversary this year. And so that's this whole summer, we're basically playing that record and select other songs. You know, we'll play out that and all the hits, basically.
Yeah, I was just listening. Well, I listened to that song. I listened to the whole album right before this, actually. But that Tony Hawk song, that's got to be my favorite song. That's how I remember he is. And probably a lot, I would say, remember he is. All my best friends are metalheads.
All my best friends are metalheads was on that, right?
Yeah. Now, were you fans of the Tony Hawk game prior to doing this? The Tony Hawk video game?
Yeah, I was not. I'm not much of a skateboard game guy, but we did play that for a little bit. I'm more of a first-person shooter game kind of guy, but even that, like, I don't know. Every time I start playing video games, it takes a while to get everything rolling. So you're already like half hour in by the time you're actually playing and remember how to play, and then I feel like if I've been playing for like 45 minutes, I'm like, I should be doing something else. I feel like I'm wasting my time, or I'm like someone that needs to be like productive or whatever. But then all my stuff that I'm doing that's productive is just bullshit that I made up for myself too. So it's like, it's not like I actually have responsibilities, but I'm like making them up and then I have to check them off my list. I don't know. Kind of crazy.
You read my mind on that. I got kids. So I bought these, there's a PS5 in here. We got a Nintendo Switch. I think there's another, and it's like, and I got buddies who play video games. I'm friends with like gaming channels and whatnot. It's like, and I always talk shit like, I'm doing other stuff. I got time for that. But, reality, when I'm not doing this, I'm either just, fucking around watching YouTube. And I'm calling it work or productivity, but in reality, I'm just.
Yeah. Like sometimes I get bummed at myself because I could just be doing that. Like I did get lucky and get the job where I do have a lot of free time sometimes. And like, I could be the guy that sits around and plays video games all the time, but somehow I can't, like, it doesn't work with my psyche very well. Like I can't justify doing that where I could just do it and just be like, I'm one of those guys that just plays video games. Like I could have been really good. And now that's actually lucrative. You could be a professional video game player if you know what you're doing. You get on like Twitch. Twitch?
Yeah, I'm still wondering about that whole world because like I went on Twitch once and I just looked at the thing and you click on like because I like seeing who's live. I like the live interaction. This show's live. Everything I do is live. So like I click on who was live and it's like the top 20% was all like. It looks like OnlyFans ads. It's just people standing around. Like I don't even know. So it's like,
what am I getting onto here?
right. I got this is what I ordered. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. But my kid will sit there. He'll watch people like these. He likes that Minecraft, and they'll have just sit there for hours and just watch people playing the game.
I know that's the one that boggles my mind now. And that's why people make money on it because if you get a certain amount of people watching you, then it adds up to ad time and then you get money from that. And that's what Roger started doing that at some point because he plays Fortnite and that's like a really popular game. And so he started doing that, like just made himself a Twitch channel and just started doing it. Like if you get like 75 people consistently following you and watching, you can start making money doing that. I'm like, so having like a built-in fan base already, it's easy to jump from being a band member to that. So you'd think that there'd be a lot more band people doing that.
Amen. All right, it says, Captain, you don't have to answer if you want, but he likes asking us, which city had the best groupies in your opinion?
The best groupies. Well, unfortunately, not unfortunately, because I think it's better, but I've kind of been in a relationship almost the whole time. I only had a brief windows of single on tour as a band member, and I found it to be nerve-wracking. It's like really hard. You got to try to cram everything into like one night of like trying to like hit on someone and make something happen. And then try to keep up with them. Like, I don't know. It seemed like a lot more work. And then there's also everybody else that's in a band on tour with you that's single is trying to. So there's like all these sharks in the water trying to steal your bait and stuff. I don't know. It seemed like a complete nightmare to me. It's really hard having a relationship and being on the road all the time, but I prefer that much more than that. So, but as far as just like fans, like not groupies in that way, like people that are, I feel like for us, England is great. Like we have some pretty like rabid fans there, but we've always had really good shows in Chicago. Obviously, Florida is good for us because we started here, but Chicago's always been really great out of the gate for us. And the whole Northeast is just like our hotbed. Like so we had songs about New Jersey and stuff. Vinny was from there. And so we toured the Northeast a bunch early on and got a lot of like early good punk shows that built into a fan base.
Okay. Now back to the Tony Hawk. Did you ever get to meet Tony Hawk at all?
You'd think in this line of work we would, because we played so many of those like X Games and snowboarding things and stuff like that. But there's only been, as far as I know, one show, it was like a festival in Europe where he was there. I got to go watch him skate a half pipe, but I never ran into him backstage or anything. But I've heard he's really cool, and he seems like totally rad dude.
It seems okay to me. I'd love to get him on the show. As people said, I can't remember what they said. I'm too big. Fuck it. All right. Now this question is in the guise of Doof, so I'll just read it how he wrote it because I'm not from Coventry in the UK. So for purposes of this question, pretend I am.
I saw Doof come by. If there he is up there, L Doof the Third. Is that who we're talking about?
Yes. That's my good buddy out of Worcester, UK. Beautiful, beautiful man. He says, I'm from Coventry, UK, where two-tone ska music was revitalized by a band called The Specials. Have you played there or met the band?
Let's see. I don't know if we've actually played Coventry ever. We played pretty much everywhere in England though. Like the first time we went there, that's why we got bigger, is that we toured in like a little van there and went around like the whole country, played like little cities, just kind of what we did in the US too. You just play every little town and you build everything up slowly. A lot of American bands will go over there and just play London and like Manchester or whatever, and then move on to Europe and not really spend any time in England. But we were playing everywhere. We played like Leicester. I don't think we ever played Coventry though. Maybe we did. I'm sure. We've played like a lot of places. As far as meeting the Specials, we never did anything with the Specials, the band, but we did play on, I think it was the Flogging Molly cruise that we were on. The Special Beat was on there, which is like English Beat and the Specials like kind of combined and stuff. So there were some people from the Specials in that. But yeah, no, we never really got to do anything with the Specials. We played with the Toasters quite a bit. They actually were on that first Ska Against Racism tour that we did in 1998. That was the Toasters were pretty big on that with us. We actually did some of the Toasters just recently.
I was going to ask this later, but it was my buddy Dorito. He runs a channel. He's out in California. He's friends with the one guy from the Glow Skulls. He says, how do you like playing with the Voodoo Glow Skulls?
We actually did a bunch of stuff with them early on, and then we hadn't played with them in a long time, but then we just did some shows with them kind of recently. We really had fun with them again. So I think they're in our future, and they're actually on part of this summer tour that we're getting ready to do. So as well as the Toasters.
Nice. All right. Have you ever played Belfast?
Yes, we actually played there kind of recently. The last time we were in, when I said that we were over there, the first time we went there after the pandemic was last spring, and we played Belfast. We played Dublin and Belfast. Those are the two Irish shows that we did on that run. But we've done Ireland a few times, but it's a little bit difficult because you got to get, once you get to either you start in Ireland and then take the ferry over to England, or you're doing stuff in England and then you take the ferry over to Ireland. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. There's nowhere to park in Dublin for a bus. You have to like go park way out on the outskirts of town and then make your way in somehow, like Uber now. There's
no parking anywhere. And I know all you UK guys, you guys heard me say this 1,000 fucking times, but there's no parking, no roads, no nothing over there. They got parked cars in the middle of the street. They'll be park this way, park that way. You got to wait for cars to go by. Like, it is mind-boggling. The biggest culture shock to an American to go to UK, in my opinion, is 100% going to be the traffic and the traffic patterns and what they
just driving in general. Because not only, everyone worries about driving on the other side of the road, but that's the least of your worries. It's like trying to find, well, now it's not a problem probably because, you can just use your phone to, dictate where to go. But when we went there and I told you we were driving around in a van, this was, where you got the Rand McNally map out. It was even before MapQuest. Like this was like, we're arguing in the van on how to get there. And, London or just England in general, they didn't set things up on a grid like US, we're such a young nation that like they were building roads based on like just traffic routes that people were doing with like horse and carts and stuff. And then they just became roads at some point. So there's a lot of curving. And the best was like when you go ask someone for directions, we'd be like way on the outskirts of town. We're trying to get in the middle of town. And we're like, all right, so we need to get to like the city center. And so we pull up to this thing. And they're like, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to come up here to this roundabout. You're going to go make a half left, then come back around upon yourself. And then you're going to make a third right. And then you're going to take a left again. And then you're going to take 3 rights. And then you'll see a sign for the city center. And then you ask someone else. I'm like, what? So we'd be like, so we'd pull away from them. And then like the first 2 turns we'd get right. And then we'd be lost again.
That reminds me, dude. Me and my dad were in Ireland in '99. And it was the same era because there was no MapQuest. This is before even anything. And there was this town called Athlone, Althlone. I'll never forget it because we couldn't understand one word this dude was saying. He was like, Athlone, and his accent was so thick. All I heard was Athlone, and we just drove down the road for another little bit and asked somebody else because we were completely not understanding what the hell he was saying. It was great.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the other side of that. The directions, it was tough because the further north you get in England, it's like that. It starts getting more and more bullfroggy. Like when you get up to like Scotland, they're like taxi cab. It's like you get like 3 words or something. Right, Mars bar.
We had a question from Randy. Are you 420 friendly? Do you like the herb?
Who doesn't?
Hell yeah. We like the herb.
Say that because it's medically legal in Florida again.
Medically legal in Ohio too, baby. We're very 420 friendly over here. Now it sucks though.
Our band has always been has been a
okay. That's good. That's good to know. So if I go up to the concert, maybe we'll have to figure something out.
Yeah. I'm an after the show kind of guy though. I don't like to get up on stage like that anymore. It's I either am in the middle of the song and I'm like, shit, what verse is this? And then I'm like, oh shit, what song is this? And I'm also like, I'll be out there and I'm like playing. I'm like, why is everybody looking at me? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on stage. But if I'm drunk, I get a couple drinks before I go up there. And then I'm like, why isn't anybody looking at me? Look at me. It's like, I like feed off the energy a lot more without.
I couldn't do, because I do stand up and like, I quit drinking, but man, I get 1 or 2 drinks to me and I get 3 or 4 more. And the next thing you know, you got 6 in you.
Yeah. That's just like, it's got to be you have to like know how to.
You got to get that in the zone.
I know how to time it so that I don't start until like, an hour before we play. Because otherwise it's very dangerous.
Oh, and it's like you get up there as a comedian and you're just forgetting your jokes. You're like, and you think you got it, and then you don't, and then it's just all hell. Because
being a comedian is definitely a rougher situation, I think, than being in a band. Like a solo artist has the same deal where you get other. First off, you're by yourself. That's the hardest part. And then just like you said, trying to remember all your jokes. I guess that's like remembering all your songs, which for me, like people are like, how do you remember what to play? It's like, it's just so ingrained at this point with me. I feel like you always have to come up with new material as a comedian. I mean, you can kind of do the same set for a tour because you're in different places, but once your stuff's out, you can't tell everybody the same jokes because that's like,
that's me. That's me so much. That's me so much because I hate repetition. I hate it. Like
but as a band, I can play the song Automatic since 1997. Like on stage every night for 30 years and people still want to hear it. It's a different thing than a joke.
I've done this is like 227 on the shows and every show has been a different topic or guest just because I cannot stand repetition. I just cannot, bro. It's ridiculous. I already got a question from Captain. He says, Buddy, any current bands that you rate? That's Northern Islanders for you got any good bands you like now?
There is a band called Pup from Canada. I think they're from Toronto. Should definitely look them up, like a puppy, but just Pup. Fantastic band. I did a deep dive on them starting last summer and have not stopped yet. Like it's like I got all the records and then I literally have just had them on repeat while I'm doing yard work like the whole time. Band called 4 Year Strong that we've toured with a bunch, put out a record in 2020 called Brain Pain, is fantastic too. I've been listening to that. I've finally left Pup behind for a minute and I went to that record. I've been listening to that a lot. Those are my 2 go-tos right now.
Okay. Was there ever any beef between you and the other bands of the time? Blink-182, Sum 41, Good Charlotte, stuff like that?
People made up a beef between us and Real Big Fish early on. So we didn't really tour with Real Big Fish during those big years of ska, like when ska was like on the radio and stuff. I think part of it was that they had a song on the radio and we didn't. Like they had Sell Out, the song on the radio, and we had Johnny Quest Thinks We're Sellouts at the same time. And we were on a major label and we were trying to get on the radio at the time too. And we had some radio play, but it was nothing like they got like they were from California and had all the connections and like it took off. And we never had that. And so people just assumed that we had beef with each other or something. It was weird. Like I guess we might have someone might have said something in an interview one time that was just kind of off the cuff, like as a joke or something. But I don't know. It really never was a beef between us. But then we never really did anything for a while. And then we ended up being on the Warped Tour at the same time once. And we kind of like hung out a bunch and we were like, oh, we get along with these guys. I don't really get what was going on with that. And then eventually we finally did a tour together in 2007 was the first time we ever did a real tour. And it was like fantastic. We were like, oh my God, this is like the best thing for both of our bands. What the hell were we thinking? So then from 2007 until now, we've been kind of touring buddies to a certain degree.
Nice.
But as far as beefs go, there was kind of something with us and Goldfinger early on too, but that was just over some stupid little thing that happened at one show that we played with them. And then it turned into something else because we were talking shit about them or something. And then they tried to come beat us up backstage one time. It was just all this like nonsensical, like early young band type stuff. But now we totally know Feldman and all those guys. And, it's really just John Feldman and like whoever he gets superstar group together anyway. So half the time the people that are playing with them are people we know from other bands like, Herrera from MXPX or whatever. So yeah, we don't really have. It's hard for us to have a beef because we're all like friendly people.
It's such a good time band. Like watch the
Yeah.
videos. You guys like I mean, Jimmy Buffett's not the same genre, but you guys like Buffett with Woodwinds. I mean, it's just you go up there, look, it's a party, everybody's jamming. That's a good vibe,
Yeah,
man.
we decided early not to try to put like a lot of politics in our, like, we don't get up on stage and talk politics. You know, some of our songs have like viewpoints and stuff, not really political, but like definitely like, you know, some things about, you know, being punk rock and holding to your ideals and stuff like that. But most of the time on stage, we try to keep it light because we know people are not going to a show to like join the new rally or whatever. And, you know, we want people to go there to forget all that kind of crap. Like I go out to go to shows to have a good time and forget any problems I'm having. And so we try to do our best to like let people have a good time when they're at our show and not try to preach to people or anything too much. You know, not slagging any bands that do that, but
oh yeah, Escape.
It's not our style, I guess.
Have you ever seen Me First and the Gimme Gimmies?
Oh yeah, we're friends with all those. Well, and it's which rendition of Gimme Gimmies? Yeah, it's like it's always a bunch of different people now. It's originally it was kind of the same people for a while, but then it just turned into like this mishmash of whoever it can be. The singer is always the same, Spike, which is funny because that band started just as a joke because the guy that sings was really good at karaoke, and it was him and like some of the, you know, his punk rock friends, like, you know, Fat Mike or whatever, would go out to karaoke, and he was so good at it. They were like, we should do like a band. We could be the backup band, and you could just sing like these songs that everybody knows. And then they started doing that, and it kind of took off, and they were like, fuck, I can't believe this is working. So yeah, they were on one of those early, it was like 2001 Warped Tour, I think it was. And yes, we had a lot of fun with that. They had a bartender and a bar they brought up on stage every show and like made drinks for everybody during their whole set. So the person that was doing the bar though was this girl, Heather, that used to play in the Teen Idols, and they had just been on tour with us. So we were really good friends with her. So we would just like sneak up the side of this because people all wanted to be on their stage then. That's why they did it. So every time they played, their whole stage was full of like, you know, all the other bands. But we just kept sneaking up on the back and getting right next to the bar. So we had free drinks the whole, like their whole show, and we get sloshed no matter what time. I was like, shit, Me First and the Gimme Gimmies are on at 1:00. We wasted today.
That's great. That's great. All right, now on the science of selling yourself short, got some criticism for having a lot less horns and trumpets. Doof wants to know, is there any regrets in that decision?
On that song?
Yeah, that's what he said. I didn't look this close.
I think he meant the record Anthem. That song's on, but the song itself that's like a huge horn song. It's like a reggae song. All
right, must be the record then. Yeah,
it's probably the record Anthem, which does have horns on it, but they're mixed kind of low. So some of the times you can't even really hear the horns that are going on, which kind of bums me out. And it was the problem with that record was that it was right when all this kind of stuff stopped being popular and different kind of music was on the radio. We were still on. That was our first record on Sire Records, which is, you know, Warner Brothers affiliate or whatever. And, you know, so that, you know, horns weren't researching well in radio and all this kind of crap. And there was a point we were having like a group conference call or whatever. It was like, Buddy has left the conversation because like I was arguing to get the horns in this one song, and some of the songs had horns in them. We took them out, and like some of them there's a radio version. And so it was a weird time period for that record. I think that record sounds great though. Like Rob Cavallo, that did all the Green Day records and stuff. He's the one that produced it. So we had a blast making that record, but I was a little miffed when it got towards the end because there's a lot of ripping horn parts on that too. Another record was In With the Out Crowd that was like that we got a lot of shit for the horns being missing in action. And there was like the guy that produced that, Howard Benson, also did Hella Rockview. But this was also, again, a different time period. It was like 2006 when when that record came out. I think it was 2005 when we were recording it. And, you know, it wasn't a real horn heavy time in the radio world or the popular scope of music. And so again, they were trying to like, you know, offset the horns a little bit from it. But we made it through that. We made it through those times. The horns persevered. I'm still here. All of our new records, new, it's not new anymore, but the one that came out in 2020, Silver Linings, that is horn heavy. It's got horns all over it, and you can actually hear them because we recorded it and produced it. So
it's beautiful. Now, that being said, what do you guys get offended when people ask what genre you guys consider yourself, or what do you consider yourself?
Yeah, that's a hard one for us too, because we are multi-genre. I feel like it's hard to pigeonhole us because not only do we have horns and guitars, but like we have a lot of different styles. I feel like we have 5 different styles of songs that we do. We can do just like the straight, you know, upbeat, fast ska with horns in it, or we can do like a reggae thing with ska and horns in it, or there's just like straight punk rock song with no horns in it, or there's like a rocking song like Metalheads that has horns in it but also has ska in it. It's like, so it is hard to pigeonhole us because we do have a lot of sounds. And they started out as just a 3-piece punk rock pop punk band. So, you know, that was the roots, was that, and then we added the horns to that, and so then it was just like ska with horns, or not ska really. It was like pop punk with horns. Like the band Snuff was one of the things that we kind of looked at, and then Operation Ivy we were really into at the time, which was no horns but like ska, and then the Mighty Mighty Bosstones was the closest thing to us, and we were all listening to them at the time too. So when we first started, those were like the 3 big, and like Green Day and bands like that were all like in our repertoire for sure. But we also grew up on metal. Like Chris is still a metal. Like he listens to like, he looks at like Blabbermouth and like Metal Sludge and like all these things that are online. He still follows that are all things from the 80s. And awesome. So like there's a lot of that in our songs too. Like, you know, Roger's favorite band is Iron Maiden, you know, and Metallica.
Now, have you ever met any of the famous following Jakes? Jake the Snake Roberts, Jake Plummer, Jake Paul, or Jake Gyllenhaal?
Wow. Jake Gyllenhaal. Have we met him? That's not. No, I'm thinking of Jared Leto. He's the one that's in 30 Seconds to Mars. Yeah. Jake the Snake. We may have possibly met. I don't know if it was. We met the Iron Sheik at that. There was a Comic-Con in Orlando that we went and played. And there was like some wrestling people there, but then there were also, you know, just all the like comic type people. But wrestling kind of crosses over into that Comic-Con type stuff all the time. And I think it was the Iron Sheik that walked by me one time. I met him earlier, but it wasn't Jake the Snake. We also met Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island that day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She was. I was always a Mary Ann guy versus a ginger guy.
Yeah. Oh man.
That was like a thing at some point.
It's got to be a tie, no? I mean, most people.
Exactly. I kind of like both, but.
Right. There's aspects you like about both. I mean, some people always like Mary Ann because that's the girl next door. But, you know, you want Ginger.
Glamorous movie star.
Right. You get flashiness, bro. You go out there, you got this hot dame in your arm instead of, you know, some chick in a, you know, whatever.
Mary Ann can make you a coconut cream pie.
That's true. Nowadays, it's a different cream pie. All right. It says, Buddy, who was your biggest musical influence?
Oh, wow. Mine personally?
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to be rough. See, again, I'm like all over the place with that too. So it's hard to pick one because I was, you know, I grew up, if you go like in my high school years, I had gone alternative already, but it was like The Cure and the Smiths and like Depeche Mode and stuff like that. I hadn't graduated to punk rock yet. But then when I moved into college, it turned into like, I think I transitioned through like Minor Threat or something, and Fugazi got me into like maybe like the hardcore scene. And then that moved into punk rock, and then it turned into Green Day, which turned into all kinds of, you know, punk rock stuff. God, it is really hard. On Beatles is like a real huge.
Oh, that reminds me. We have a question on the show we ask every guest. Beatles or Queen? Out of those two bands, who do you got?
Oh, God, I thought you were going to say Beatles or Rolling Stones, but which is easy for me because that's Beatles. Because I'm not as Rolling Stones is more like a bar rock band, and Beatles was more like of a, I don't know, all over the place musical, creative, artsy band. But that's a tough one for me because Queen I love too. Queen's a little more rock opera at times though, and I don't know if I'm definitely not an opera guy. I think that's gonna have to still be Beatles for me.
Okay.
Beatles as far as songwriting goes, because they just have like amazing chord structures and turnarounds, and like, you know, as a musician listening to the Beatles and just I have that Beatles Bible. It's like a book this thick that has it's like the score from every single song in it. Like, you know, it's got the guitar parts, the drum parts.
They named the airport in Liverpool after John Lennon, man. That's how big of an influence it is over there.
That's pretty picky for them too. You'd think that it would have been like the Beatles airport, because just picking one of the Beatles in Liverpool is kind of rude because they're all from
right. That'd be like calling the Cleveland airport Machine Gun Kelly Airport. Like, that's mind-boggling to Americans. You know what I mean?
So weird.
All right, so this tour you got going, here's the schedule. I clipped it.
Nice.
Isn't that cool, right? I snipped that from Facebook. I see that picture from Facebook.
It's a great move.
Now, you guys are going to be going to the House of Blues in Cleveland on July 11th. They say you're going to be playing the entire Hello Rockview album. And we talked about my favorite song earlier, the one, All My Friends Are Metalheads. Now, would you say, what is your favorite album that you guys have done? Is the one you guys playing their favorite? You personally, what's your favorite?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's like asking who your favorite kid is. That's like, you know, when people ask what my favorite song is, that's tough too. I mean, Rockview is up there. I don't really like the way Rockview came out recording wise, because I mean, it's a long story to get into why, but I just don't like the way the horns came out sounding. I think that it actually it's mixed well as far as you can hear everything, but I think the sound on the horns, what got done to them, like effect wise, they sound like some weird keyboard, which they didn't sound like that originally when we laid them down. We did that album so fast too. We rushed. It was like 3 weeks. We were in there like cramming it in at night. Like the horns were doing stuff from like midnight to 4 a.m, like kind of thing. I rode my bike home and got in an accident because it was so late at night. And I had like smoked some synthetic opium or whatever that was going around town. But yeah, I don't know. It's that's a tough one. And of course, you know, as a musician, you like the most recent stuff you've done. So like Silver Linings is one of my top records because I really like the songs on it and I like how it came out sonically. I think that it just got done right because Roger recorded it all, and so he knows what we're supposed to sound like. You know, he's done all of our records for the last like probably 4 or 5 records, but I think he's gotten better and better over the years, and I think we finally really captured it on that one. But going back as far as older records go, yeah, Rockview is pretty up there for me. There's a lot of good songs on there, and I've been practicing it lately too. So, you know, I've been going through all the stuff. There's some of the stuff we don't play all the time is the ones you got to go back and play sometimes. Like Danny Says, like, you know, we never play that live, but that's like got great horn line to it. It's like the horns all over that song, which would be edited now. Like for sure, people would have cut out some of the stuff that's on Losing Streak and Rockview that are in there. Like I feel like these days would be like, well, we don't need horns on this first verse. We'll just wait until the second one, you know.
All right,
back then it was like, put it on everything.
There's a band in the UK called Project Revise who would probably love to either do a cover or a collaboration with you. So Project Revise.
Okay, Project Revise. I'll
Yeah.
have to look them up.
All right, and let's see here. Well, I was going to ask you something else. How many albums have you guys done?
You put me on the spot. I think we're probably at like 10 now.
Okay.
I can consider and count now, and it depends on whether you count things. Because you said Pezcore was our first record, which it was the first one that came out as a full length, but technically there was songs before that we put on a record. It was all like 7 inches and stuff. And then it's called Losers, Kings, and Things We Don't Understand. And that's a full record. That's all songs that were from before Pezcore, but it came out after Pezcore. So, but I don't know if I even count that because it was all like 7-inch records. And there's Goodbye Blue and White that was also like B-sides and 7-inch. So if it's just regular albums, we got Pezcore, Losing Streak, Hello Rockview, Borders and Boundaries, Anthem, In With the Out Crowd. Let's see, then we got these 2 EPs that turned into a record, like Greetings and Salutations. Do I count that? Because those are all like new songs. I'll count that. Greetings and Salutations. See the Light. Sound the Alarm was an EP, but it's like 7 songs. And then Silver Light. Yeah, so we're right around 10.
I just noticed you guys have never done a Christmas album. What's up with that?
You know, we've noticed that too, and keep saying every year right around August, we should do a Christmas record. And then we keep like talking about it and postponing it and not doing anything about it. And then next thing you know, it's like November and we didn't do anything. We're like, damn, we should have done the Christmas record. We'll do that next year. And so the idea has come up several thousand times and we just haven't gotten it. We've done some Christmas songs. We did I'm Getting Nothing for Christmas. You know, I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad. That song. We did Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, which that one came out great. What's the other one we did? I guess maybe that's it. So yeah, so we need to get on that. You're right. And JR has actually written a couple. Our sax player JR has written a couple Christmas songs, and then for the express purpose of like, we could do some covers and we'll do some of our own songs, and then yeah, just never. There's always other things that keep taking precedent.
I know this tour schedule is pretty condensed. Do you like? Is it just simple fact it's cheaper to do it that way? Would you prefer to spend a couple days in Nashville, a couple days in Chicago, or is it just like?
Well, we do that if we're playing like smaller places, you can play 2 shows and play 2 shows for 2 days. But otherwise, yeah, it's way more economical to have shows every day. Like we're not a big, especially if it's only a 2-week tour like that. We're not going to take a lot of days off because you know days off mean money. So yeah, it is nice though. We've done that before. We played like these album shows. We did this with Losing Streak and Rockview. And one night we did Hello Rockview, and one night we did Losing Streak, and we did like small. We do like 2 places in New York that are a little smaller than what we'd normally play, and 2 places in Chicago, and 2 places wherever. And that's fun because it is cool to be able to be in the city a little longer. You know, because that is the biggest part of touring. Everyone's like, oh, it must be great to travel and stuff, but you know, you don't really get to see a lot because there's a lot of stuff that happens during the day. You know, you have to like get in there and set everything up and then sound check. And there's little windows in between all these tasks, you know, and if we're doing like a meet and greet thing too, we have to do that. And then the show starts and then the show's started. And by the time the show's over, you're not like going to the museum at like midnight, you know? So it's like, you definitely have the day off to try and do some stuff, but you know, you can cram a couple little things in on the, you know, in between stuff, but you're not really getting a lot of travel in. Like people are like, oh, it must be great to go to Europe or whatever. Yeah. I saw the inside of a club. It smelled like a bar. It's great.
Right. It was like me going to Korea. You get to see Korea, the bar outside of the base, and that's about it. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah, but so we're also old now too. So we've been cramming everything into like 2-week tours because nobody really wants to be gone more than 3 weeks. So the Europe tour, since you got to pay for the ticket again, we're not going to do 2 tours in Europe. So we're like, all right, we're going to stay over there for 4 weeks. It's like almost a month, I think, that we're over there. Then we get home, we got a couple weeks off. Then we start going around the U.S. and we do one section of the U.S. for like 2.5 weeks, and then we have like a week and a half off. And then you keep putting that one block up that has those dates, but there's another whole section of the tour after that in August that's going around other side of the country, and that's another 2.5. That one's almost 3 weeks, I think. And then I think we're going to do another round later in the fall, kind of like we did basically what we did last year. We did like 3 little legs of tours to get around the whole U.S. We'll probably do some more stuff, something in the fall. Like I don't know if we're going to get down to South America, or we keep talking about South America again, or Australia or Canada. Those are places we haven't hit in a while.
Australia, that's a plane ride, son.
Oh wow. God, I was just talking about that with somebody yesterday. The jet lag, not only the jet lag, but just the plane ride itself. So it's like Japan and Australia are the worst from the States. It's like you're at that 8-hour point. You look at your watch, you're like, man, we're only halfway there. You've already flown for like a whole work day.
And then you got to watch another movie. It's
I'd knock out some movies on that for sure.
4 whole major features. That's awesome, man. All right, before we go, I stalked your Twitter for a little bit, and there was an awesome rendition of you playing taps. Do you mind if we play that?
That's great. Yeah, I did that for CBS. Has like a thing on their nightly news where on Memorial Day, if you send in like a thing of you playing taps, they'll put it on, like they can put it on their site or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to do it. So I went out on my porch right in front of my American flag and did that. Yeah, go for it.
All right, here we go.
Like how I stand at attention at the end.
Right. I wanted to ask you because I know that's probably, I know people don't realize this, but it's kind of awkward watching yourself sometimes. Like,
oh yeah, it's always.
I don't go back and watch old shows. I'm sure you don't sit there and let me watch us performing, Chicago in '86. You just.
If I did that, I would never be able to go play live because I would criticize everything I'm doing the entire time. Like it's not even just the playing; it's like me dancing around on stage. Like who told me it was okay to do that? Like I just do what I'm doing. That too. Like the taps. I went for the really somber, slow version. Like it's like I tried to go for the how you would play it at a funeral thing.
Right. There's I've heard that so many times. So it's a very powerful song, man. Taps is one of my favorites. It really is. Supposedly the words are "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, all you troops." Go something like that. It's just a real basic. I don't even know if that's true or not.
It's like the opposite of Reveille. They play it like. Maybe it's what they play when you're going to bed too, but it's also what they play, obviously, at a funeral because you're going to sleep then.
Yeah,
it's like a long sleep.
Yeah,
but revelry is like the opposite. It's like it's get up right now, get up right now, get up right now, you fool.
That was literally the lyrics. I actually have a short out there somewhere deep in the channel. You got to get up. You've got to get up. You got to get up this morning. You've got to get up. We got to get up right now.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So Less Than Jake is gonna be live at the House of Blues July 11th. I don't know what I got going on. We're trying to make it out for that, but I will. The House of Blues is
Cleveland,
cool.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Cleveland House of Blues is pretty cool too. We've played there many a time. It's like an interesting House of Blues. It's like low ceiling style.
Yeah, and they get an opera box. It's funny. I tried booking the House of Blues for a comedy show, and man, yeah, you guys got that. I'm not on your level to that yet. But how long does it take to put a tour together like that? Like, say you're like, hey, I need 3 bands for a 2-week tour. How long is it? Like 3 months?
It is so far out now, and that's the thing too. It's not even just putting something together and getting the bands and like setting up the shows. It's getting holds on the clubs, like you were just saying. Like once the pandemic opened back, like after the pandemic opened up again, it was already hard enough booking shows before, like 'cause there were so many bands. But now everyone had like 2 years off, so when it was time to like get back into it, people jumped out there, and now there's like it's like you're like the 9th hold on a venue, like you're never gonna get that, So it's like. It is. You have to start booking like 6 months to 8 months out before. It's like a long time. So we have talks about the tour well before the tour gets put up online for sale. It's like it's been going on for months and months now. At this point, it's like usually like 5 months before it's going up for sale, and it goes up for sale like a few months before you're on it. So it's, you start talking about it almost a year in advance for sure. Like when it's summer, summer tour next summer, we're talking about it in the fall.
Have you ever played? What's the smallest? This is a random question before you. I just randomly thought this. What's the smallest audience you played for when it was like when you guys were at this level, not like back in college, like 90?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because we played literally one person one day. But let's see. Like once we got to this side, well, that's the thing too. Is when you're traveling around the world, you end up going to places like some places in Japan will play like a small town that we've never been before. So we'll play to like 50 people or something. So we've definitely. That's what I like about our band too, is that we can still do that kind of stuff. Like there's, bigger bands will play like a secret show, like Prince or something will have like some secret show and play to like a 300 seat venue, but it's still, there's still a decent amount of people. But when we did like, I guess there's this place called the Barfly in London that we did like a warm up show before like a tour. And it's only like holds like 150 people or something like that. And we did that in our, our heyday of like, we were popular in England, and it was like a madhouse trying to get inside the place, because of course all those small places too don't have like a dressing room really, or any, like anything for the bands to like. So you're like, we're just basically parked outside. I'm like, come inside with my instrument, like make my way through the crowd and get to the stage, and that's not that easy with the trombone. Like, don't break my slide.
That's awesome. All right. Dorito says, ask his buddy Jorge and the Voodoo Glow Skulls about the Luch Mob.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just Dorito ego surfing. All right. I'd like to thank Mr. Buddy Schaub for coming out. This has been an honor, sir.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. I don't know what I got planned for 420 yet, but it's going to be a banger. All right, we'll see you guys.
What's the 6 days from now? That's
next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
I'm debating whether or not I'm going to take off work that day or the day after.
Take off work.
Probably should take off both days, right?
That's hardcore. I mean, I guess your name is Joey Edibles, so I mean,
hey, you got to be committed to the cause.
You can't.
It's like Christmas for us people.
You can't deny 420.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, we've definitely done some 420 specials at our merch store and 420 shows, and there's definitely been some 420 stuff for us.
Arturo Sandoval. You ever play with Arturo Sandoval?
No. That sounds familiar for some, like the name sounds familiar. Is he like a horn player or something? Why do I know that name?
No clue.
Nope, no clue.
Oh, well. Well, thank you, buddy, for coming out, man. Appreciate it. And
all right.
We'll holler at you guys later. Peace.
All right. Time for me to go make a martini.
Hell yeah.